Good morning, student. Today I am going to discuss about the mechanical and electrical properties of the solids. So, electrical property of the solid. The capacity of a substance to allow the flow of current is measured in terms of conductivity. And on the basis of ability of current conduction, the solids are classified in three categories. First is the conductor, second insulator, and third semiconductors. Conductors are of two types, metallic or electronic conductor, and second one is the electrolytic conductor. Metal conduct electricity in molten state as well as in solid state. Metallic conductor allow the passage of current to a large extent. For example, copper, silver, aluminium, iron, etc. Whereas electrolytic conductors like NaCl, KCl conduct electricity only in molten state or in aqueous solution. In solid state, they do not conduct electricity at all. And the conductivity of the metallic conductor lies in the range of 10 to the power 4 to 10 to the power 7 ohm inverse meter inverse. Metal has the maximum conductance of 10 to the power 7 ohm inverse meter inverse. So, metals are the best conductor because of their very high ability of current conduction, 10 to the power 7 ohm inverse meter inverse. On increasing the temperature, conductivity of the metal decreases because with increase of temperature, metals have fixed kernels at the lattice sites. When temperature is increased, these are the kernels. Metal kernels means metal cations. In metallic crystal, lattice sites are occupied by the metal cations called metal kernels, and which are floating in the sea of electron. And there is a Coulombic force of attraction between the metal cations and the electron sea, which is called metallic bond. So, when temperature is increased, what happens? That metal kernels start vibrating and create obstruction in the flow of electrons. Thus, conduction decreases, that means resistance increases. Second one is the insulator. Insulators, the solid which do not allow the electronic current to flow through them. The solid which almost do not allow the electric current to flow through them are called insulators, like rubber, wood, plastic, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. Their conductivity lies in the range of 10 to the power minus 20 to 10 to the power minus 10 ohm inverse meter inverse. And third type of solids are semiconductors. The solid materials whose conductivity lies between the conductor and insulator are called semiconductor, like silicon, like germanium, and the conductivity range is 10 to the power minus 6 ohm inverse meter inverse to 10 to the power 4 ohm inverse meter inverse. In case of semiconductor, what we find that their conductivity increases with increase in temperature. In pure semiconductor like silicon and germanium, each silicon atom is linked to 4 other silicon atoms on a sheet by 4 covalent bonds. Or germanium is bonded to 4 other germanium atom by 4 covalent bond. When temperature is increased, what happened? Some of the covalent bond breaks and the electron becomes free to move, and so on heating, these free electrons start conducting the electricity. So on heating, semiconductor show electrical conductance to some extent. Now, what are the types of semiconductor? Semiconductors are basically of two types. One is called intrinsic semiconductor or pure semiconductor. These are in fact insulator at room temperature and become semiconductor when temperature is raised due to breaking of covalent bonds between them. Some of the electron becomes free, and because of that there is some electrical conductance. So pure semiconductor, that is silicon or germanium, behave like an insulator at room temperature, but at higher temperature they start showing some electrical conductance due to the production of free electrons as a result of cleavage of covalent bonds. The conductivity of semiconductors is improved by adding certain impurities. This process is known as doping. So extrinsic semiconductor or impure semiconductors are made from the intrinsic semiconductor by mixing some impurities. Silicon or germanium has 4 valence electrons. So in silicon or germanium, when group 15 elements, for example phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, etc., when they are mixed with, some of the lattice sites are occupied by arsenic or phosphorus, which is clear from this figure. See here, this is the crystal of silicon in which arsenic is present as an impurity. Arsenic has 5 valence electrons and silicon has only 4. So each arsenic form 4 covalent bond with the surrounding 4 silicon atoms, and the 5th electron of arsenic remain free, and because of that it conducts negative charge, so it is called N type of semiconductor. That means when pure semiconductor silicon or germanium is doped with group 15 elements like phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, so because they are electron rich as compared to the silicon, they conduct negative charge, so they are called N types of semiconductor. On the other hand, when pure semiconductor like silicon and germanium is doped with group 13 elements having only 3 valence electrons like boron, like gallium, like indium. See here, this is what happened. The 3 valence electron of boron form covalent bond with 3 neighboring silicon atoms. But at 4th place, what we see, there is a positive hole. So because of this absence of electron, positive hole means boron has only 3 valence electron, so 3 of them has form 3 covalent bond with the neighboring silicon atoms, and but the 4th place there is a silicon atom which has 1 electron free, but boron has not any electron left after the 3 valence electron has formed the bond. So this is the positive hole. Here there is no electron, so it is positive hole and it carries, it is called P type of semiconductor, because when electrical field is applied, the hole will start moving in one direction and the charge will move opposite to the direction of hole. So this is P type of semiconductor. What are the uses of semiconductor? Semiconductors are used in transistor. Transistors are used to amplify and detect the radio signals. These are made up of sandwich compound called NPN where N is N type of semiconductor, P is P type of semiconductor, and is again N type of semiconductor. So NPN or PNP, it is a sandwich compound in which one particular type of semiconductor is between the two layers of other semiconductors. Between two N type of semiconductor, there is a P type semiconductor, or between two P type semiconductor, there is an N type semiconductor. So this is called transistor, which is used to amplify and detect the radio signals. Second use is in rectifier. Rectifiers are the diodes which are made up of combination of N and P type of semiconductors. So this is in making transistors, in making rectifiers, and third in solar cells. Solar cells are photodiodes, and these are made of semiconductor. Now, how this conductance, to explain the conductance, the ease with which metal conducts electricity, insulator does not conduct at all, and semiconductors conduct electricity only to a limited range, a small extent. So to explain this, there is a theory called band theory, explanation of conduction behavior on the basis of band theory. This theory is based on molecular orbital theory, MOT, which you have already learned in class 11. Then when pure atomic orbitals combine linearly, equal number of molecular orbitals are formed. Half of them are called bonding orbital, molecular orbital, which has lower average energy as compared to the atomic orbit, combining atomic orbitals, and other half of the molecular orbitals are called anti-bonding molecular orbital, which has more energy than the average energy of the atomic orbitals. So this band theory is based on the molecular orbital theory. In solids, large number of atomic orbitals combine to form molecular orbitals. And these molecular orbitals, bonding molecular orbitals and anti-bonding molecular orbitals, which are so close in energy to each other as to form a bond, closely spaced energy levels are called band. So that is called band, energy band. The occupied energy bands are called valence band. Fully filled molecular orbitals are called valence band, and empty molecular orbitals are called conduction band. So highest occupied energy band is called valence band, while the lowest unoccupied energy band is called conduction band. This is the conduction band, which is unoccupied. It is valence band, which is occupied. So this is the highest occupied valence molecular orbital is called valence band, and the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital is called conduction band. In metals, there is no gap between the valence band and conduction band, as it is clear from the figure. So overlapping between the valence band and conduction band takes place, and as a result of that, it can conduct electricity to the large extent, because electron can easily switch from valence band to conduction band. In insulator, see here, insulator, the gap between the conduction band and the valence band is very large. This gap, this is forbidden band is very wide. So it is called forbidden zone because electronic transition is not possible even on heating. The gap is so large. But in semiconductor, the gap, energy gap between the valence band and conduction band is small. So on heating, some electrons can jump from valence band to conduction band, and that is why semiconductors show electrical conductance to a small extent. Metal conducts electricity to the maximum extent. Why? Because there is no energy gap between the valence band and conduction band, so electron can easily jump or can move freely from valence band to conduction band. While in case of insulator, the gap between the conduction band and the valence band is so wide that electronic transition is not possible at all. So this is all about the band theory of conductors. Now, after knowing the electrical property, let us learn the magnetic property of solid. Magnetic properties of solid depends upon the internal electronic structure. In an atom, nucleus is positively charged, carries most entire mass, and electron revolves around the nucleus in the closed orbit. So magnetic property of solid depends on the internal electronic structure. The magnetic behavior of a substance is due to these electrons have two types of motion: orbital motion of electron around the nucleus, and it also spins on its axis in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. So the magnetic property in electron arises because of the two motions. Electron is a negatively charged particle undergoing orbital and spin motion. So when electron undergoes orbital and electron spin motion, what happens? They are regarded as electron is negatively charged, and when it revolves around the nucleus, a small loop of current is formed, which possesses a magnetic property perpendicular to its direction. Here is the electron. Electron is moving in that direction, so this will be the direction of current. This is the current in which the current will be moving, and the magnetic moment will be perpendicular to this. Here it is exhibited. So electron is a negatively charged particle undergoing orbital and spin motion. Thus, it may be regarded as a small loop of current which possesses a magnetic moment. Magnetic moment of electron is very small in magnitude. So every electron is treated like a tiny magnet. With respect to their response to the applied magnetic field, solid have been classified into the following types. Types of solid on the basis of their magnetic property. On the basis of magnetic property, solids may be categorized in the following 5 types. One is diamagnetic solid. Second one is paramagnetic solid. Third one is ferromagnetic solid, antiferromagnetic solid, and ferrimagnetic solid. What is diamagnetic solids? Diamagnetic, those solid substance in which all the electrons are paired and are weakly repelled by the magnetic field are called diamagnetic solid, and this property is called diamagnetism. Diamagnetism arises because of the pairing of electrons. So, substance which has only the paired electron having no unpaired electron are weakly repelled by the external magnetic field and are said to be diamagnetic. They are weakly magnetized in the magnetic field in opposite direction. What are the examples of diamagnetic substances? Like water, NaCl, benzene, KCl, titanium dioxide, etc. Second one is paramagnetic substances. Those substances which contain unpaired electron, one or more unpaired electron, are weakly attracted by the external magnetic field and are called paramagnetic solids, and this property is known as paramagnetism. Those solid substances which contains one or more unpaired electrons and are weakly attracted by a magnetic field are called paramagnetic substance, paramagnetic solid, and this property is known as paramagnetism. They lose their magnetism in absence of magnetic field. That means they cannot be made a permanent magnet. Examples are O2, Cu2 plus ion, Fe2 plus ion, Fe3 plus, chromium 3 plus, Ti2O3, TiO3, CuO, etc. These are the paramagnetic substances. Third one is the ferromagnetic substances. The solid which are attracted by external magnetic field, strongly attracted by external magnetic field, and do not lose their magnetism when magnetic field is removed are called ferromagnetic solids, and the property is known as ferromagnetism. Ferromagnetic substances are strongly attracted by external magnetic field, and once they brought into the external magnetic field, the magnetic property persists there. That means such substances do not lose their magnetism even after the removal of external magnetic field. Examples are iron, cobalt, nickel, chromium dioxide, gadolinium, etc. In solid state, the metal ions of ferromagnetic substances are grouped together into a small region called domains. Solid state metals have metal kernels. So metal ions group together in small region called domains. Thus each domain acts as a tiny magnet. In an unmagnetized piece of solid, domains are randomly oriented and their magnetic moment cancelled out. In unmagnetized ferromagnetic substances, magnetic domains are randomly arranged in such an order that their magnetic moment cancel out. But when these substances are placed in the magnetic field, all the domains get oriented in one direction and are strong, and they start showing a strong magnetic effect. See here, the alignment of domains in one direction. But in ferromagnetic substances, these domains are randomly arranged. This happens only when they are brought under the influence of external magnetic field. Antiferromagnetism. Those solids which are expected to show paramagnetism or ferromagnetism on the basis of unpaired electrons but actually have zero net magnetic moment are called antiferromagnetic solids. Those solids which are expected to show paramagnetism on the basis of unpaired electrons but actually have zero net magnetic moment are called antiferromagnetic solids. In such solids, magnetic moments of domains are oriented in equal numbers in opposite direction. So the resultant magnetic moment is zero. They are oriented in parallel and anti-parallel direction. In magnetic domains are oriented in parallel and anti-parallel direction in equal numbers, and that's why resultant magnetic moment is zero. And the examples of manganese oxide, manganese dioxide, dimanganese trioxide, nickel oxide, cobalt oxide, etc. These are the anti-ferromagnetic substances. Ferrimagnetism. The solid which are expected to show large magnetism due to the presence of unpaired electron but in fact have a small net magnetic moment are called ferromagnetism. Ferromagnetic solids, and this property is known as ferromagnetism. Once again I am telling you, the solids which are expected to show large magnetism due to the presence of unpaired electrons but in fact have a small net magnetic moments are called ferromagnetic solids, and this property is known as ferromagnetism. Ferromagnetism arises due to the alignment of magnetic domains in parallel and anti-parallel directions in unequal numbers resulting in some net magnetic moments. When the magnetic domains get aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction in unequal number, ferromagnetism arises. Examples of ferrimagnetism arises, and the example of ferrimagnetic substances is Fe3O4, MgFe2O4, magnesium ferrite, zinc ferrite, ZnFe2O4, etc. Ferrosulfuric oxide Fe3O4. This is the ferrimagnetic substances, and in such substances, they are expected to show a strong magnetic moment, high magnetic moment due to presence of unpaired electron, but in fact, they have very small magnetic moment due to alignment of magnetic domain in parallel and anti-parallel direction in unequal number. Examples are Fe3O4, ferrosulfuric oxide, magnesium ferrite, MgFe2O4, zinc ferrite, ZnFe2O4, etc. Now, what will be the impact of temperature on the magnetic characters of solids? Ferrimagnetic Fe3O4 becomes paramagnetic when heated to 850 Kelvin due to randomization of the spin. So, ferrimagnetic substances or antiferromagnetic solid like V2O3 becomes paramagnetic when heated to 750 Kelvin. So when ferrimagnetic or antiferromagnetic substances are heated to above a particular temperature, that temperature is known as Curie point or Curie temperature. This temperature has different value for different ferrimagnetic substances or antiferromagnetic substances. So ferromagnetic solids has a characteristic temperature above which it becomes paramagnetic. The characteristic temperature is called Curie temperature or Curie point. So ferrimagnetic substances or antiferromagnetic substances becomes paramagnetic above their Curie temperature. So this is all about the electrical and magnetic property. Do revise properly because every year board examination, some notes or some reasoning type questions may be asked based on this. What will be the impact of temperature on the ferrimagnetic substances, or what will happen when silicon or germanium is heated, something like that. So please solve the exercise problems as well as 10 years board examination of previous board examination. So of this unit, solid state, solve 10 years board examination paper, previous 10 years board examination paper, as well as the exercise problem based on the solid state. Thank you.